All right, all right, all right. We're gonna learn today. Okay, so today I'm thinking about how to create your dream life, right? So I think everyone strives to be happy and, be content with their life and, just have, um, the things that you wish for. So, how to create a dream life? I guess we're gonna learn today. We're gonna learn that today because I'm also trying to learn how to do that because days are different. Life is hard. I mean, you go to work, you go to your 9 to 5, you come back, you're so tired. You don't even think about, the things that you can be doing for yourself because maybe you also have a family, you also have other responsibilities outside of work. So you come back, you're exhausted, you don't have the time for yourself, you don't take care of yourself, you're not eating healthy. Um, and I think we've all gone through at least a period of that, if not a season of that. So I've been thinking a lot about what it means to create a dream life and how do you get there. So first of all, you need to define what your dream life is. So when you do that, it's basically thinking, I always say this, like I think I've said this a couple of times, that you first need to start with saying, what is your dream day? What day, how do you, define your dream day? If you didn't have work and you didn't have responsibilities and it was just you and life, what would you be doing with that time? So if you can first start by, you know, making a list, or like even not necessarily a list, but just writing out from the time you wake up to the time, the day ends, what does your dream day look like? So basically, you also, after you've done that, you basically then have a personal vision. How can you try to get as close to that day as possible? And let's say, for example, so for me, my dream day is waking up, going to the gym, coming back, writing, filming, creating. No, actually, I skipped a part. So going to the gym, or working out, coming back and watching personal development videos or videos about psychology, um, and then have a shake, or breakfast, shower, um, then create something. Because I was first, intaking things by listening to, psychology videos and stuff. Then after that, I want to create. I want to push something out. So I'd either be writing or filming, or any other form of creating. After that, have lunch, and then have some sort of recreational thing that I enjoy. So something like playing puzzles, or what else do I like? Reading. So something like that. Then, in the evening, make some dinner, eat dinner. Then at the end of that day, watch something that I enjoy, right? So that would be my dream day. So, or even like in between that, if I'm not reading, studying something, right? I forgot to say that. So now that I know that that's my dream day, how do I create a vision where I can get as close to that day as possible, right? Because the thing that takes up the most time is your 9 to 5. So, okay, I can go to the gym early in the morning. I can watch um, my podcasts and personal development things. I can watch them while I'm cooking breakfast, for example, and then I can go to work. Then I can come back, do one of my leisure things like playing puzzles, reading, creating for like an hour, then make dinner, or make dinner, then do those recreational things, then watch some TV and go to bed, right? Or I can study. What the leisure thing can be the studying. So can you see there that though, I still have responsibilities. I've tried to put the things that are in my dream day into my daily habits. So it does take a lot of effort, because sometimes you have so much responsibility that you don't have time. We always say, "Oh, I don't have time." But you need to be strict with your boundaries. You need to create a life where it's more about you than it is about your responsibilities, because you can have then more energy to be in touch with your responsibilities than if you're burnt out. If you're burnt out, you have less capacity to handle your responsibilities. But we need to find a way to prevent being in burnout. Okay, so another thing is to connect to a source of power, right? What does that mean? So having some sort of spiritual or um, or religious grounding. You need to find a way to connect with nature, a higher power, or your ancestors, depending, or religion, right? One of those four things. The reason that is because that gives you a foundation for whenever you're feeling down or whenever you're feeling um, overwhelmed. It gives you something to connect to. So if, let's say, you're not a religious person, then, or a spiritual person, then your source of power can be connecting to nature, going for a walk, going for a swim, being in touch with the four elements, earth, air, fire, water, finding a way to be in touch with those elements will bring you back to yourself and be more present in your day. So if you are someone who's religious, you can pray, read your Bible, go to a Bible study, go to a sermon. If you're spiritual, you are also probably going to be in touch with nature, but also be in touch with, whatever source of, you know, your belief is. If it's your ancestors, then you speak to your ancestors. If it's the universe, you then speak to the universe. So when you are feeling down and feeling in that state of overwhelm, it brings you back to yourself. Okay. And then another thing is creating meaningful and realistic goals. So in that example of creating your dream day, you need to be realistic on what can you actually incorporate for your daily habits. So let's say, for example, you can't incorporate your your leisure time as much because you have children, right? So you don't have time for yourself in the evenings. Then wake up earlier and create that time. You need to your life should not be centered by your job. You should center your life around you, and your job is something you do to maintain your life, not the other way around. You're not maintaining your job's life, you're maintaining your life. So therefore, you need to be the person that you give the most to. I always say that you need to have um, a percentage thing. You can't give 100% at work and then give 100% at home. You have to find a balance. So maybe you give 60% of yourself at work and 40% of yourself at your home, but you give 100% of that 60%. What do I mean by that? You Sometimes we spend so much time at work and we still carry on having work in our heads in the evening. So then you don't actually ever have time for yourself because your mind doesn't switch off from work. So then you're spending 100% of your time at work, even when you are in your leisure time. So having very strict boundaries of something to break that time for work. So maybe you can go to the gym if you find yourself being one of those people who still think about work after work. Then maybe you put your gym session after work to get yourself away from that. You put your spiritual side or spiritual things that you do, like going for a walk, you put that after work so that you can have something that breaks that cycle of work, and then you can have more time to yourself or more time to give to your family, or to give to your partner. So then have something that's going to help you break that connection, because sometimes we go straight into watching series, but you're not being present in that because your mind is still, playing. Oh, okay, I have that meeting tomorrow. I have to do. You do your to-do list, you know, or even in the mornings, you wake up, your first thing, doing a to-do list in your head about what you need to do at work. But the most important thing is to find a way to make sure that you're only present at work during work hours. Okay. Like I said, create realistic goals. So even in your vision for your life, you create realistic goals, like I said, of what can you actually incorporate in your time. Okay. Another part is creating knowledge and, I guess, intentionality, right? So being intentional about your day. So you wake up in the morning, you set an intention for the day. Today, I want to be as productive as possible because I have a meeting, right? How do you become productive? You first start with yourself. In your morning time, have some sort of morning routine that helps you start your day. Because when you wake up, roll out of bed, take a shower, go to work, you don't have you haven't taken the time to set an intention for your day. You're just being reactive to the day because you've just rolled out of bed because your alarm went off. Maybe you were snoozing the alarm, rolled out of bed, took a shower, stressed about work in the shower, went what you call drive went to drive to go to work, stressed about work while you're driving. you know you haven't had the time to have a break in your head. So wake up and have a morning routine. If you're not somebody who's active, do something that will make you move your body, right? Because you are energy. And if you are have energy bubbling within yourself, but you don't have a release for that energy, you end up in a state of anxiety, having panic attacks, being depressed, because you're not moving this energy outside of yourself. So that is why it's important to have something that is a way of moving, because movement is medicine. It will help you in your health. It will help you for your brain function. You'll be more productive. It really creates an environment for you to take care of yourself. So in the morning, have some sort of movement, even if it's a walk, even if it's yoga. It doesn't have to be some intense, gym session where you're carrying 10 kgs. I mean, I enjoy that, but it doesn't mean that you have to. So yeah, movement in the morning is, I would recommend that. And you know having a morning routine. So maybe in the morning you decide to read your Bible, write something. you know make your morning like as if you have the most amount of time. Have a morning that you have the most amount of time. If you have kids, I know it's difficult because you have to wake up, get them prepped for school and all of that. It just means that you have to wake up earlier. That is why it's important. You have to have a moment to yourself, even if it's an hour. Wake up an hour earlier, just for a month. Just try it out for a month. Wake up an hour earlier and have something that's yours for that hour before anyone wakes up. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Another thing that's important is to have a supportive system. So your first source of support is your spouse. Actually, your first source of support is yourself. Yeah. So how is it yourself? Because you need to be your best friend. If your friend was telling you how burnt out they are, how overwhelmed they are about life, what advice would you give them? And then you take that advice yourself. Maybe your advice would be exactly what I'm saying, taking time for yourself. Okay? So you need to live as if you are your best friend, because you are. you're the person that you're going to spend your whole life with. Do you get that? Like, you are the person that spends your whole life with yourself. And if you don't make it such that your mind is a place where you are happy, you will never have a dream life. You need to find a place of peace in your mind. You can't always be berating yourself and saying, "Oh, I didn't wake up for the gym. You stupid. You're fat. You're, lazy. You're this." You'd never say that to your friend. So you have to create an environment where you are kind to yourself. You are your support system. If you didn't wake up like you planned to, be compassionate with yourself and say, I had a long night last night and I didn't get a chance to wake up. Okay, so I will make sure in the evening I take time for myself. Be as compassionate as you can be, because change is difficult. Trying to change is difficult. It's hard work. That's why a lot of people don't change. That's why a lot of people say, I'm just not the kind of person who works out. I'm just not the kind of person who has time. You know, that's not true. You have become the person you are to survive, and you need to get out of survival mode, because a lot of us are living in survival mode where it's just one thing after another. It's never really pace and slow down and you know have a time to be present. So yeah, create an emotional support system. So that includes then your spouse, your friends, your family, making sure that the relationships around you are giving you energy. Sometimes there are two kinds of people. People who are vacuums, they suck the life out of you, and people who fulfill you, who fill up your cup. So if you have people, let's say your family members, that take up your time, whenever you see the phone call, you're like, ugh, and then you answer the phone, and then you spend an hour with that person on the phone. By the time you're done, you're so drained, you just want to sit and just, veg out on the couch and, forget about that phone call. Spend less time with that person. Have like a 70-30 rule, where 70% of your time is relationships that fill up your cup, and 30% of your time is relationships that are vacuums. Because sometimes it's difficult to cut people off. I know there's a lot of cut off culture where we're always thinking of, oh, you must just cut him off. If someone isn't making you happy, cut them off. If, people are whatever, and there's so many things that people say about cutting off. It's not as easy as you can, as it said to be, especially as an African, or having, if especially as an African or someone of color, you there tends to be a lot of um, emphasis on family dynamics and being in touch with excuse me, being in touch with your family. So it's difficult to just cut people off, but you can put boundaries in place and say, okay, I don't have energy during the week to waste time with people who are draining. Then you decide, okay, instead I will talk to this person on the weekends. If they call, I'll just say, listen, I'm busy at work. I'll call you on the weekend. If it's not important, you can message and say, hey, I don't know if you're checking in or if this is something important. I'm currently busy with work, home, whatever. I'll call you on Saturday. Have that boundary. It is your phone. It is your time. It is your life. Let's not forget that. So it's, it's difficult to do, but once you do that on a regular basis, people will then, you know, understand that that's your boundary. They will learn to accept it. It will be uncomfortable, obviously. They'll be like, oh, why are you not answering the phone? You know? But it's up to you how you decide to use your time, not, you know, you being reactive. You can't just be reactive throughout your whole life. Okay. Another part is to be comfortable with uncomfortability, right? I think I say that a lot of times where I'm like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable because that is the only place of change. Being in your comfort zone is literally killing your your energy, your time, your life. It's an energy killer being comfortable. And sometimes being uncomfortable is, something as simple as deciding to go to the gym, right? You need to decide, is it easier to be, not about easier, actually, let me rephrase that. Do I prefer to have to have energy or not have energy? Okay, you prefer to have energy. Okay, so you want to wake up to go to the gym. Cool, but it's difficult for you to wake up. Find another way, right? Either if it's not waking up, then go in the evenings. If you can't go in the evenings, then force yourself to wake up, right? It sounds easy, but I know it's difficult. But at the same time, you have to decide that I there's two ways of being, uncomfortable. You either be uncomfortable by saying, trying to wake up and snoozing, right? Or being uncomfortable and go to the gym. You need to choose your hard. It's hard not to wake up, right? It's hard to wake up and be negative towards yourself and say, "Oh, you're so lazy, you didn't go to the gym." That is hard. Or you choose the hard of going, waking up, going to the gym, being there and not knowing what machines to use, being there and not knowing what workout plan you have. That's hard. But at the same time, you need to decide the outcome. The outcome of you waking up and snoozing makes you feel tired. That's the outcome. The outcome of you going to the gym makes you feel energized. That's an outcome. So instead of spending so much time on the uncomfortability before you get the outcome, decide, okay, what is the outcome I prefer? I prefer to have energy. I prefer to look good. I prefer to have the body that I want. I prefer to feel good about myself. If that's your preference, then the uncomfortability is the easiest part. You have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because you are living for the outcome. You're not living for what is uncomfortable. When you get out of your mind and decide, I'm not gonna want to do, I'm never gonna want to do it. Like like me, I never want to go to the gym. But if I do it, then I feel good and I am happy. I'm, you know, living the life that I want. When I realize that, then it's easier to get up and just go. Okay, so those are the nuggets of wisdom I have today. And I think that really covers the dream life parts because a dream life is not something that is out of this world. It's not something that's unattainable. It is something that is consistency. Having consistency with taking care. When people say self care, and they talk about baths and reading a book and, you know, going to the spa and doing your nails. Yes, that is taking care of yourself, but no, it isn't self care. Self care is being strict with yourself, not strict per se, but being intentional about the things that you enjoy. Be intentional about your time, being intentional about how you spend it. That is self care. You deciding that you're not going to, what you call, spend time with someone who is a vacuum or spend too much time with someone who, that is self care. If you decide, okay, someone is a vacuum and I love them, so I will still go to lunch, but I'll just keep lunch at a minimum, an hour or two. I don't spend the whole day with that person, because I know that after that encounter, I'm going to be exhausted. That is self care. You deciding, taking care of yourself and reparenting yourself, just the same as you do with your kids or with someone younger. You parent them and say, this is what's best for you. You need to do the same thing with yourself. You need to parent yourself and say, this is what's best for me. How do I implement that? And how do I communicate those needs to that person? And that's how you create your dream life. You're never in a place of reacting. You're reacting to your circumstances, you're reacting to your life. You are then intentional about what your life looks like. That's what a dream life is about: being intentional and being consistent. If you do those two things, you'll get there. All right. As always, love and light. And I hope that this video gave you something that you were looking for. Until next time.